Hi folks, my name's Ben, and like a great many people out there, I'm doing my own van conversion. I didn't intend to document any of it. However, having looked at a number of videos in terms of the preparation of the van, I noticed that there was something I thought that was missing with regards to preparing the van for its life as a camper rather than the preparation to make it a camper. And there's sort of four elements of that that I think are necessary that are either I haven't found or that are overlooked. The first one of those is in the sills. So what I'm talking about is on the boxer that we've got here, is in that area just down here, in this area here. So this is a 2-year-old boxer that we bought, and on the outside it's in immaculate condition. What we found though, once we'd removed all the panelling, because it wasn't visible, is that down in this area here, at the front of where the wheel arches join the inner sill, there was rust. We also removed about 3 kilos of sand from the inner sills, and there's rust similarly on the near side. So if you've got an older van than 2 years old, then I would be a little bit concerned about that, so it's well worth looking at. So I've treated that. I managed to remove the rust, and I've applied some rust inhibiting paint. And the next thing I'm going to do in the sills, and this is my first sort of preparatory point, is I'm going to protect them for the longer term using ditching oil. Now, ditching oil, or indeed you can use wax oil, although that's a little bit smellier. So I've got this ditching oil can, and I'm going to apply it using this gun and a compressor, and I'll be injecting that into all of the inner sills. And the idea of this gun is that it enables you to get into those awkward parts, and it will spray a certain amount of oil around and then protect the sills, so that should you get any water ingress, it won't sit on the metalwork. It would just sit in a waxy oil bowl and naturally evaporate. I'm not going to do that at the moment, because there's one other point that I think that people overlook, and that is on the trim. Now, the boxer has a lot of black trim that runs on the outside of the van, and that's all held in place by lots of little plastic lugs that come through the bodywork, and these are effectively little drains into the inside of the vehicle. I'm going to show you where they are now. Right, so I'm at the back of the van now, but these are the little lugs that come through all the way along here, and they're down here, and they're all the way along in the sill. And I'll insert a picture so you can see the evidence of the water ingress that we've already had on this van, and it's quite prominent. Now, the sills were dry when I cleaned them all out, so that water obviously evaporates over time, but if it's just sat on bare metalwork, it's something to worry about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean off all of these areas, and I want to do this first before I put the wax oil in, because there's a chance that the wax oil might create a bit of a poor surface which for these for the silicone that I want to apply over each of these would adhere to. So I'm going to clean it off using a wax off spray or a cleaning spray. Clean all of these off, give them a quick clean, and then I'm just going to use some normal bathroom silicone, and I'm going to put a small cap, and I'm only going to demonstrate this for the moment. I'm going to put a small cap of silicone over each of these snap-on clips. Now what I've done is, I'm not using a nozzle on the silicone gun, I'm just going to create a small bead of silicone, and I'll just demonstrate it really the once, because there's no point me demonstrating multiple times, because it's pretty simple what I'm explaining. I'm just going to put a little cap of silicone there, fill it over, and then hopefully that will provide me with Maybe not a completely waterproof seal, but certainly a better waterproof seal than if I just left them to allow the water to wick through. Now, appreciate that that will make things a little bit more awkward should I have to remove the trim, but that should be desperate times when there's been damage or an accident or someone's driven into me, in which case I won't really care about those things being snapped off. The final, well, not the completely final point, but there's two more points I want to make with regards to the van preparation, and the next one comes as my experience as a T4 owner. We owned a T4 for 15 years, and in that time what I noticed was the rail on the outside of the van that supported the sliding door as it opened became loose. And I mentioned this to our plumber when he came around recently, and he said he had exactly the same experience, albeit a bit more drastic, because when he opened his door, the part that was supported by that runner actually fell off, and he was holding the door, and it was only then supported by the runner in the actual doorway. I'll show you now where that issue starts from. Okay, so you can just now see this is the sliding door on the Boxer, and that runs all the way down the near side, and it's supported on a rail that runs along the side of the van. And that rail is mounted on the inside via these series of bolts that run down on this supporting rail. Now, it's these that became loose on my T4, and obviously at some point in the future, if that ever happened to this van and I've converted it to a camper, to gain access to this area is going to be really awkward. I'll have to remove panelling and all sorts of stuff. I did just think that I would actually demonstrate fitting the lock nuts to the sliding door rail so that I'm not responsible for someone's door dropping off in the near future. So I've already done the first one, the most forward of the originally fitted manufacturer's bolts, and I've Loctited that on. I'm going to have to use Loctite for the other locking nuts because unfortunately the threads are not long enough for the nylon locking section of the nylock nuts to actually engage on the thread. So I'm going to apply a little bit of thread lock, and then I'm going to apply my locking nut, and then I'm just going to torque it up, or tighten it up rather, to tight. That's the grade or gauge of tightness we're putting on that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to the rear one now and do the rear one rather than work my way down. But notice obviously that I'm doing them one at a time, not removing any more than one. So that the door isn't going to hit the floor. Apply some thread lock to the exposed threads. Put the original manufacturer's nut back on. Easier when you haven't sliced most of your fingers off at some point in the past. Nice and tight. A bit more thread lock on the exterior exposed threads, and then put my little lock nut over the top. And the idea of the lock nut is obviously to stop any movement of the manufacturer's nut. So that will hold it all in place now. So that's all of them done now. Interestingly, the latter three in the middle there were actually quite loose, which gives me faith that I've actually done the right thing on this occasion. All I would caution is they are stainless steel threads on those, on those bolts that are coming through there. So just don't go mad when you're tightening them up. Just tight is good enough. FT probably too tight. So just be cautious and don't thread them when you're doing it. Otherwise, you will have a problem on your hands. Okay. Right then. I'm all set up now, ready to go and start putting the ditch oil into the sills. The gun's all set up. Now I only have a small 50 litre compressor, just a hobby one really, so hopefully this is going to do the job. It did warn me not to do anything over 6 bar. 4 to 6 bar is what you want to apply this to. I guess any more and the oil will be going everywhere. I've set it at 5.5 bar at the moment, and we'll see how this works. I'm going to put some safety gear on just in case it does turn into one of those amazing failed videos. So here we go, let's see how this works. The idea being that I'm going to apply a small layer of this oil to the inner side of the sills, and I'll take a picture in a minute to show you exactly what that looks like when it's finished. Okay, already I can see that that's probably too much pressure, the oil's going everywhere, so I'm going to go and turn down the pressure to about 4 bar on the compressor and see if applying it with less pressure gives a more even coat. Right, so pressure's turned down and we'll see how this goes on. I mean, having looked in there, however, it doesn't look too bad. It just would be nice if it wasn't going quite so everywhere and up the walls. So I'll continue and then I'll take a shot and show you what's happening. Okay, so that's this front inner sill area done now. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up, then I'll take a still image to show you what it looks like. And then from there on in, I'm going to go around and completely do the rest of it. But as you can see, with this little setup, not particularly difficult. The gun itself was, I think, 20 quid. The ditch and oil, more expensive at 25 quid. I think you can also get wax oil around about the same. Hoping that this will sort of go to a waxy finish and less oily. At the moment it's still quite oily in there, but we'll see how that pans out in time. But ultimately I'm not intending to put any insulation down there, because obviously if there is any water in there, I don't want anything holding that water. So the fact it's going to be oily and greasy in there doesn't really matter unduly, because I'll probably just be sealing that off with vapor barrier anyway, so it won't be coming through or won't be smell. So that's the plan. The final point I want to just make mention of, and I'm not going to do or demonstrate, is I'm going to underseal the underside of the vehicle, and that's because I'm fitting water tanks that will be down there, and I don't want corrosion to be starting to form underneath the tanks. I also note from a lot of the videos that people are fitting their floors using screws. This is something I don't personally like. I'm going to mount my floor and glue it to the inside of the van. I actually welded up 86 holes in this particular van's floor, because whoever fitted it decided that for every screw is going to fit, there was a need for an additional 3 holes. But my concern is that screws going through the floor create a wicking point that will draw water up through. But if you have gone down that option, then you definitely need to protect them on the outside of the vehicle to prevent water from being drawn up through them. So I would recommend, again, using a wax oil product or something similar to underseal the bottom of your vehicle and prevent that from being a possibility. Obviously you won't be able to get to every corner, but it's a good starting point to try and protect your vehicle for the longer term. Right, well I hope those 4 points have been really useful and helpful to you. I think there are an area that's missing in the current catalogue of really useful videos that are on YouTube. Should I come across anything that I feel is still a gap in the future, then maybe I will be posting something else, but if not, I hope it's been useful. As you can see, I've still got a long way to go with my van conversion. It's only just really started, but the preparation works are pretty intense. Hopefully things will speed up once I've got all of the points that I've made here done on this van as well. So good luck with your own conversions. Thanks very much.